Hey Most Amazing Top 10 family, I'm your host Che Dorena and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. For all the times justice has been served, there has been cases that have slipped through detectives' fingers like a greasy pig running for freedom. When you think about all the criminals that have been caught and how they were just living among us prior to being discovered, it makes you wonder how many are on the loose right now. They could be your friend, they could be your neighbor, maybe someone watching this video. And if that opening statement wasn't enough to freak you out, I'm bringing you today's list of top 10 scary unsolved crimes you won't believe. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Also, stick around for the whole list because I'm doing more pet shoutouts because you guys love them so much. Also, if you need more Most Amazing Top 10 content, check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Anyone looking for some Most Amazing Top 10 merch, there's a link below. You can click on the link, it'll take you to the store. You can use the offer code MA10, which means you can grab a shirt for 10 bucks. It's a sweet deal. And I would like to give a huge shout out to Brianna. She picked up some Most Amazing Top 10 merch and has been showing it off on her Instagram. We love it when the fans are supporting the channel. It's so huge. And without taking any longer, let's get into this list. At number 10, we have TUPAC Shakur. Alright, we're kicking off this list with a case that left the world shook. And still nobody knows what happened to Tupac that night. It was Las Vegas after the Mike Tyson fight. Tupac had left the fight, was catching a ride with famous producer and murderer Suge Knight. Someone pulled up next to the car and then blah 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 blasted Tupac. Paramedics arrived, but by the time they got him to the hospital, it was too late. Rumors about who was behind this circulated for decades. Recently, Eminem called out Puff Daddy for killing Tupac, which is crazy if you didn't know about the 20 other people who also have called out Puff Daddy for killing Tupac. Some people think that Tupac faked his death and is still alive, but I doubt we will ever know the answer to this mystery. At number 9, we have Elizabeth Short. Better known as the Black Dahlia, this case has been so huge, it's been referenced in films, music, television, everything in pop culture. And with over 70 years after this murder took place, there hasn't even been a whiff of a suspect. A few speculations, but nothing hard. It was on January 15th of 1947 that the body of Elizabeth Short was found. It seemed that someone had killed her with some sort of bladed weapon and then mutilated her body. The story got out to the press and they were the ones who gave her the famous nickname the Black Dahlia. The police launched a massive investigation. Over 100 people were interviewed. It said at one point they had 150 suspects. But with all this blood, sweat, and tears being poured into this case, no arrests were made. Throughout the years, there have many people who have confessed to killing Elizabeth Short, but all these claims are most likely false. There was even an accusation that famous actor Orson Welles was responsible for her murder. Oh my god, that's some juicy Hollywood tea. At number 8, we have Jane Marie Townsend. The problem with trying to catch a murderer back in the 1950s is you had very little to go on. You couldn't use DNA, there was no security cameras, it was basically an eyewitness or nothing. This is what happened to Jane Marie Townsend. She was walking home alone one night after leaving a party. No one knows what happened to her on that walk home, but Jane didn't seem scared leaving the party by herself. It seemed like she thought she was gonna get home safe and sound. The next day, the police get a call about a dead body. When they arrived, they discovered that Jane Marie Townsend had been murdered. The murderer used her own scarf to strangle her to death. The problem was that there was no suspects. Some people thought it might have been an American Army member, but no arrests were made. Later in the 1980s, the police were tipped off by an anonymous person. The case was reopened, but it went cold again. At number 7, we have the O.J. Simpson case. We are going to dig into one of the most prolific court cases in American history. I think the only thing that could be bigger than this is Trump's impeachment process if this actually goes through and Nancy Pelosi gets her way and they televise the whole thing. That will be crazy. That will be like a global Super Bowl. Everyone is gonna watch that. Until that happens, the O.J. Simpson case will reign supreme. For those of you that don't know O.J. Simpson, he was an NFL powerhouse and an international star. His ex-wife Nicole Brown and her lover Ron Goldman were brutally murdered in Nicole's home. This was a vicious case. Both of them stabbed to death. Nicole's head was nearly hacked off. Now, a lot of you at home are like, why is this on the unsolved cases? We know that OJ did this. There's even evidence found after the trial that pointed towards him. There was so much evidence pointing towards him that even though OJ won the criminal case, he lost the civil case against Nicole's family. He even released a book titled If I Did It, where the if was so tiny on the title that the book looked like it just said I did it. Well, you're not wrong, but he was still found innocent. So in a way, justice was never served. This case was technically unsolved, even if the whole world has decided what has happened. At number 6, we have the TYLENOL poisonings. You know when you open a container of almost anything and there's that plastic seal on it? Why is that there? Some people think that's to keep in the freshness, but it's actually because of this case in 1982. A few people were dropping dead from Tylenol. This wasn't a bad batch coming straight from the Tylenol people. Someone had been lacing pills with the extremely poisonous chemical cyanide. In total, 7 people were killed, panic hit the streets, and packaging was changed forever, and of course, no one was ever caught. At number 5, we got Betty Shanks. This is one of the most mysterious cases to ever come out of Australia. Betty Shanks was killed one night next to a road, and no one ever found out who killed her. It was back in 1952, and Betty's family got the call that she had been the victim of a hit and run. The case was investigated but quickly went cold. Then in 2017, Lyle Reed tried to publish a book giving a detailed breakdown of what happened to Betty that night and who her killer was. He claims that his aunt was friends with Betty and it was a police officer who killed her. Not in cold blood, this wasn't a calculated murder, but a mistake. It was a police officer that ran over Betty with his motorcycle and then covered up the crime scene. There was a lot of evidence on Betty's body that pointed directly to the police officer, like tire marks on Betty's body that match a police motorcycle and markings on her face that match a police officer's knee guard. The cop in question has been dead for over a decade, but Lyle wants the truth to come out. He attempted to publish the book, but all his attempts at publishing it have been denied. At number 4, we have Edgar Allan Poe, the dark anonymous poet who should be known as the original emo. Someone please make a shirt with Edgar Allan Poe's face on it that says the original emo. I need that shirt. His death is still very much a mystery. He was traveling across America from New York to Richmond, but along the way he was spotted in Baltimore. He was wasted. It seemed like the Gothic Wonder had consumed a little too much booze and was having a hard time. So much of a hard time that he was taken to a hospital where he later died. At first, most people thought he just died from alcohol poisoning, but after a closer inspection, it seemed there was a cocktail of drugs in his system. Edgar wasn't known for being a drug abuser, and after the coroner refused to release his autopsy records, people started to ask questions. There was a few speculated ideas. Maybe a rival writer put out a hit on the big-headed gloomer and tried to take out the competition. There's also a theory that he was a victim of cooping. This is where politicians would hire gangsters to assault and drug strangers, change their clothes, and then force them into voting booths. They could have gone a little too far with this, and this is what led to his death. And for our number 3 spot, we have Jack the Ripper, probably one of the most famous cases to ever come out of Old English history. It was back in 1888 when murders started popping up all over. It was mainly prostitutes that were killed in brutal ways. The killer would use a blade, cut open their bodies, take out their organs, and often slash their mouths open so they gaped open almost like a giant puppet or something. It was disturbing, and it had police confused for years. Letters started showing up at Scotland Yard describing these killings. They were all titled Jack the Ripper. This was the name that the killer gave to himself. It was unknown whether or not these were coming from the actual killer, but there was one letter that was delivered with a human kidney, and I don't think you get that without putting some holes in some people. There's also speculation that Jack the Ripper was a medical student or a doctor. Because of the precision, he was able to cut open these people's bodies. Several murders happened, a lot of them were suspected to be his, but it's unknown how many were actually caused by Jack the Ripper and how many weren't. They could have been copycat killers, or this could have even been someone who was inside the police force tricking his own people, turning people on their heads. This case is one of the most famous of all time. At number 2, we have the SODDER children. I can't think of a worse thing of happening to a family than this. This might be one of the most heartbreaking stories of all time. So it's 1945, Christmas Eve, and the SODDER family is forced to run out of their home because it is burning to the ground. George Sodder, Jenny Sodder, and 4 of their children make it out, but then 3 of their children are still stuck inside. George does everything he can to try and save his children. He tried using a ladder to get up to the rooms, but the ladder breaks. He then tries to use his truck to boost himself to their windows, but the truck won't start. In the end, the house burned to the ground, and the Sodders were unable to save their children that were stuck in the house. This left them homeless with a few dead children, all on Christmas Eve. The mystery of this crime comes later. When an investigation was done on the shell of the house after everything was dug up, there was no remains found. There should have been bones of each one of the children, but nothing was found. George and Jenny thought this could mean that their kids were still alive, but in the end they never found out what caused this mystery fire and where the missing remains of their children were. And for our number 1 spot, we have the Zodiac Killer. This is one of the creepiest, most interesting cases of unsolved serial killers that I have ever read about, and that's why I'm putting it as number 1 on this list. There are a lot of unsolved murder cases in America, but what made this one so hot was how the Zodiac killer would taunt the police. He was famous for sending encrypted messages to the police, trying to see if they were smart enough to crack them. Some serial killers never want to be found, while others want to bask in the limelight. Zodiac even sent the bloodied shirt of one of his victims to a police station. There are 5 confirmed deaths that are connected to the Zodiac killer, but there could be way more that were just hidden and too hard to find. So we will never know who this man was, unless the memes were right and it was Ted Cruz all along. Alright everyone, that is all we have for today's list, and as I promised, I'm going to be doing more pet shoutouts. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram with the name of your pet, a picture of them, and then tell me that you want me to shout them out. Don't just send me a picture of your pet because I won't know what to do with it. And if it takes me a while to get to them, I'm sorry, but I got a huge backlog of pet shoutouts to do. First off, we have Jorgus's 2 cats. One of them has beautiful eyes and the other one looks so upset that it was forced into that little hot dog uniform, but it's so cute. Varjovic sent us a picture of his dog Donna. We want to give out so much love to Donna because she is crazy cute and she's recovering from cancer right now. Best of luck, Donna. Another member of the Most Amazing Top 10 family sent this picture of their sassy dog. This dog is looking up the camera like, why are you taking a picture of me when you should be getting me snacks? What are you doing? Next, Josh sent in a picture of his dog Marley, who looks like he's very much over having that cone on his head. Wait till he finds out his balls are gone. And finally we have this little cute dude. Great hair, great look, great tongue. This is a glamour shot if I have ever seen one. Alright everyone, that is our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. If anyone at home needs more Most Amazing Top 10 content, check us out on Instagram. If you're looking to grab some Most Amazing Top 10 merch, there's a link below. Click the link, use the offer code MA10 for $5 off, which means you can grab a shirt for $10. Such a sweet deal. Until next time, I've been Shade Arena, and I hope if I get murdered, you guys solve the case.